Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a first look, because I don't really like the word box opening, although it really is, but our first look at some new rads that have become available from Alphacool, and it's the NexXxos, or NexXxos, however you want to pronounce it, UT60 and XT45 full copper radiators. These are both 360mm radiators, but they do come in 120, 240, 360, which these are, and 480s, and they also come there's several different thicknesses as well. I've got the XT45, which is 45mm thick. There's the UT60, which is 60mm thick, which is what we'd call a full-size radiator. There's also a 30mm thick, slightly thinner version for people really short on space, but there's also a monster 80mm thick rad as well. What we'll do is we'll open the, we'll open the 60 to start off with. So we open the box. The reason why I chose the 60 is I've already had it open, as you can see. It does come in the bubble wrap. Now, before we get to that, I'm just going to show you the screws, because I really like these screws. I'm only going to show you them in the packet, but they actually come with Allen key threaded bolts, but they're copper as well. So if you imagine having black fans and then actually having copper screws, really like that. It's a very nice touch. Now, they call it all copper because technically it pretty much is. Pretty much all of the construction of the radiator that matters, that comes into contact with water, for example, is all copper. All the channels in the middle are copper. All the fins are copper. Generally with normal radiators, it's just the fins in between that are copper. Sometimes you'll get steel channels in the middle, or maybe brass. The end tanks are normally brass. Now these, when you first kind of have a look at these, it does appear that the end tanks will be brass. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to get the rubber plunger out. I should really have taken one out before I did the video. There we go. Right. Now if I show you this, it does appear that that thread is brass. Now I initially thought, that means the end tank's brass, but it doesn't. When I had a look at the product listing on the website, basically the end tanks are all brass, but the threads that they've put in them, sorry, I'll change that because I said that the wrong way around. The end tanks at both ends are all copper, but the threads that they've put in and brazed in are brass, so they're slightly harder wearing, because obviously copper's quite a soft material and brass will last a lot longer. So you're better off in the long run with having brass threads. Now these are just rubber plungers, but you do get some copper blanks that you can use as well, so more copper to add into them. So you get pretty much with the radiator, you get 5 blanks, because if you have a look, this is something else that I really like. Sorry, not the camera. This is something else that I really like. There's multiple choices for where you want to put your barbs. You've got 2 on that side, you've got 2 right at the very end, and then you've got 2 on the other side. So it doesn't matter which way round you end up wanting your radiator fitting in your case, there will be barbs that you'll be able to use. There is also an end here. Now this is plastic. Now I'm assuming that this is like a bleed screw, although I've not actually got in there to look this out yet, but I'm pretty sure this is a bleed screw that you can put another blank in as well. Because obviously if you've got 2 barbs in, you've got 4 then that you're going to need to blank off, and we've got 5 blanks, so that's what that end one is for. But in the package you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of fan screws, so that's enough fan screws for push and pull, and then the 5 blanks as well. Something else that I do quite like is the fact that the Alphacool logo on the side is copper. I quite like that. One thing that I did think though is the logo on the other side's the wrong way around. I think it might have been a better idea if they sent you these stickers to fit on yourself, so that when it's in your case, it's the right way round. It may have just been an error when they made it. But if we have a look, I'm just going to get the 45mm radiator out of the box quickly, so that we can stick them side by side. Now they're the same size, as you can see there, if you have a look. The logo is a different way round on that one. I think it's just an error on the 60mm one, to be honest with you. You can see there that the, I'll bring it up, that the one below is just a bit thinner. This one is 45mm thick, and they do a 30mm thick one as well. It's really nice that they're doing the same sort of design radiators, but just with different thicknesses, because a lot of the cases don't necessarily support a 60mm thick rad. One thing I will say about the design is that the fins, the fin per inch count is actually quite low, so that means that these are going to be very good for lower RPM fans, but that have a slightly higher back pressure. The more fins that you've got generally, the higher the speed fans that you're going to need to be able to push the air over them. Higher fin count does, technically with higher RPM fans, work slightly better, but it also means it's noisier, because obviously you're going to have the air rushing across all the fins. So a lower fin count, but with better back pressure fans, means that you can have a quieter rig. And for me personally, I much prefer a quiet system that might be, I don't know, a couple of degrees warmer than something that's really noisy. Because for me, water cooling is about, it does need to have good temperatures, but it needs to be quiet and look good as well, which is generally why, compared to some other people that will give you advice, I will normally advise a slightly bigger radiator or more radiators, and that is just so that you can run, like I said, fans at a lower speed and still achieve those very good temps. One thing I will say about this 45mm radiator though, and I will show you this in another video, is that this the NexXxos XT45 is perfect to go in the roof of the Cosmos 2. So that's one to bear in mind for everybody out there. The only kind of niggle that I've got with these radiators is the finish on the paint isn't perfect. They've obviously been sprayed in quite a dusty environment, and I've got quite a lot of bits inside of mine. Also, where the paint on them is like a gloss or a semi-gloss, however you want to put it, where it catches the light, you can actually see that the surface underneath is actually quite rough as well. This is probably why with most radiators they come in like a satin or a matte finish. Yeah, I don't know, I'm not sold with the fact that it's just got some, what appears like so much dust. They obviously need a cleaner environment wherever these are getting sprayed. The housekeeping at the factory is not great, so Alphacool do need to go off and give them a bit of a slap. Something that I am going to try, and I'm going to have to turn the camera around to show you. If you can just see there, ever so slightly, I'm going to turn the light around, see if I can get the light to catch it a bit better. There is, just at the bottom there, you can see that there's another metal plate. And that basically is a mirror image of this whole side section. And what that metal plate is for is so that when you put your fan screws in, you can't actually damage the fins underneath. Many times I've been custom, building cases and stuff like that, and having to use aftermarket screws and things. You end up having to cut them down so that they don't go right the way down in. But that will actually stop you being able to put the screw too far in and damaging the fins underneath. I can honestly say I've never seen that on a radiator before. I'm not saying that I've seen every one that's on the market, but that is a lovely, lovely touch, especially for a beginner that might not realise. I'm just trying to find a way that we might be able to get you to see it a little bit better. There you go. For a beginner that might not realise, it could save them actually, damaging their radiator and causing a leak and ruining the radiator altogether. So that's a lovely touch. I really, really like that. They definitely deserve a thumbs up for that. This, as far as I'm aware as well, I'll sit down again. This, as far as I'm aware, is the first all copper radiator on the market. I know the sides are steel, but all the gubbins where the water is actually flowing is all copper, apart from the brass inserts, obviously. And I really like that. It's also a sign, because a lot of the Alphacool stuff now is black and copper, and a lot of people have been kind of leaning back towards copper again because of the recent problems that one of the brands had with their nickel plating. But I think that done correctly, black and copper can look really, really nice. So these are basically what I would say, for me personally. Now this is just the way that I work. This full size 360mm radiator, I would say CPU and maybe a hot graphics card like a 580 or the 7970 you could get on that. Now I have run like a 590 on these before, but you do need to have the fans up quite high, not with these rads in particular, but this sort of size. So that would be what I would say is a rule of thumb. Now I know there are going to be people out there that have got a 360 with 2 graphics cards and a CPU, but for me, with a CPU and like 1 graphics card on this, you're going to be getting good temps, be able to run your fans at a decent level, and it'll all be balanced quite nicely. So that's just my own personal kind of recommendation. It's just a rule of thumb. It's not a blanket rule, it's just a guide. For this sort of size radiator, easily you could get your CPU and a motherboard on it, for argument's sake, with quite big overclocks and get amazing temperatures. Or maybe a CPU and one of the lower end graphics cards. But with something like this, I wouldn't suggest having, you know, like a really hot graphics card or anything on it, unless you are, like I said, prepared to sacrifice some noise. Because obviously people, I've had people ask me before, can they cool 2 graphics cards and a CPU on a skinny 240mm radiator, because they think water cooling is the be all and end all. But at the end of the day, what you've got to remember is the heat comes into the radiator, and then the fans have to then get that heat out of the water by coming out. So if you're getting an immense amount of heat going in, then sometimes you need, you know, more power on those fans to get the heat out again. But yeah, what I would say is, like, say for example, if you're running Sandy Bridge and a 560, absolutely this would be perfect to be able to have decent noise, you know, levels on your fans, and it'll work perfectly fine. Obviously, if you're going into the Cosmos 2 with this, you've got that added option of chucking a 240 in the bottom as well. Then you can pretty much open the doors to being able to have your hot graphics cards in there as well, because you'll have that extra surface area. Now please, I do stress, these are only kind of like rough guides, and this is my personal take on the way water cooling should be. A lot of people will say you can cool, you know, multiple stuff on this, but this is just the way that I've done it, and you can see that with the builds that I've done in the past, like the custom builds that I've done in the past, that I always tend to lean towards quiet and more rads. But it's completely up to you. So yes, no performance testing on these. This is just, like I said, a look, bit of a guide, have a look around them. You may well get to see these radiators at a later date, maybe with a pair of 240s, but we don't know yet. We're just going to see what happens. I've obviously got some options available to me to use them in the future, but they are bloody well built radiators. The only thing that really lets them down, in all honesty, is, like I said, the paint finish on the outside. But the fact that you get the copper screws, the fact that you get the copper blanks, and the fact that they are, you know, pretty much all copper as well, they're bound to be very well, you know, good performing. All the numbers kind of point towards them being brilliant. So yeah, and like I said, because they do all different sizes, there is going to be one of these radiators available to you, or, you know, perfect for you to put in your rig. So yeah, go and have a look. They are available from Aqua Tuning, and they are available from Special Tech in the UK. I will put some links underneath for you. So go and take a look, guys. They're great radiators, and like I said, you're probably going to see me using them very soon. But for now, at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.